Welcome to the M26FIT Podcast, where we explore the connection between having a strong mind and a strong body. All right, today's guest is John Wood from Red Learning and Development. Welcome to the podcast, mate.
Thanks, Magnus. It's good to be here.
To help us get to know you a little better, can you share briefly a little bit of your backstory, childhood, family with us, please, mate?
Yeah, sure. Born and bred in Brisbane, Vegas. So one of a big family. I got 6 siblings, so myself and 5 others, 3 older sisters and 2 older brothers, and I'm the youngest by a bit of a margin. So growing up, I was always, surrounded by much older people in that space. We're a relatively sporty family, but no geniuses in that world. We basically, I guess, a jack of all trades, master of none. And but being the youngest, one of the things I did, I probably was lucky to be able to try and compete against people much older than me, and so it fine-tuned a broad range of skills in that space. Yeah.
So not the sport little youngest child syndrome?
No, unfortunately, they would argue against it. They would say that's definitely the case, but no, we're a pretty down-to-earth family, the Woods. So very practical.
What sort of sports did you play as a kid?
I always played soccer. That was my football, as it's called today. That's my probably favourite long-term sport. And I've been playing that from ever since I was a young kid, and only retired from old man's football a few years ago. So it's a fairly long innings. Volleyball, I was relatively good at volleyball, both beach and court, so played that. Tennis, when I got to university, played varsity tennis and captain of the Griffith University team in my day, and a few exploits around the space. No champion, I could hold my own on the tennis court.
With 5 brothers and sisters, did backyard cricket that come into play at all?
Yeah, we not as much as that was the neighbours. We had a cricket set up. One of the neighbours had a good backyard for that type of stuff. But we had a lot of sporting. But ping pong actually was one of the go-tos as well, or table tennis. Yeah,
the all weather sport set up in the garage.
Yeah, still play today. We set up a court anywhere, so we've got a portable one. So
bit of fun. All right, on to career. What exactly does Red Learning and Development do?
Simply, it's a organisation designed to assist employees and managers better understand themselves, understand others. It's a management consulting business that in the space of trying to help people be better at their interpersonal skills and how to be better leaders and managers within the organisation. So I try and stick in that area, which is around understanding self, understanding others, negotiation skills, communication skills, building high-performing teams. All of that type of stuff is my bread and butter. That's pretty much what the business does. There's a small side arm, which is my fun and games business, and that's running corporate events for organisations like team building events and stuff, but purely fun, and don't really try and tie in too much learning into that one.
That's great. So here you're a bit of a DISC expert. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, the DISC behavioural profiling tool is, I think, probably the best behavioural psychometric that any organisation could put within their business. Primarily what it is, it just identifies the way you prefer to interact with others, and the reports are very detailed. I was just running a huge session with the Hutchies guys last Thursday for about 70 or 80 design managers, all trying to explain, fast-paced people versus slower-paced people, task-focused people versus people-orientated people, and trying to give them the understanding of how it all plays out. And much to their credit, they pretty much got it, and they found it hugely valuable. So. Yeah.
What sort of feedback do you get? Like, you've got construction guys; they're not exactly too soft in that space. How do you find they
Yeah, they're probably my preferred audience. I seem to be able to connect and relate well to, people that are operational, hands-on. They like to do stuff. I'm no academic myself. I've got a few qualifications behind me, but I'm really come from a practical perspective. And I find the construction guys, having worked in the industry for like 15 years or so, to be super keen on learning a bit about this type of stuff, learning about themselves and how to better connect and interact with others as well. So, yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Share a positive game-changing moment in your life.
Oh, well, I guess, as I was saying before, I'm no academic. There's no two ways about that. But getting through university, or getting into university, the first off, and then getting through my undergrad degree, which is purely in the arts, in the media and comms. And then I found university to be a very enjoyable place, not from the parties and the tennis and all the stuff that I did there, but the way they taught was very different to school. And as a consequence, I stayed on and I stayed at university for about 7 years came out with a postgrad in human resources, industrial relations, and an undergrad in the arts. And I've always studied all throughout my whole life. I've gone back and got a grad certificate in business and management, and masters in social psychology, which is my my pet now. Working through that, so yeah.
Fantastic. So getting into university was a game changer, or finally getting out after 7 years?
I think it's a little bit of both. A surprise to many that they let me in, and then staying around for so long with a few quals out of it. Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's quite interesting, isn't it? So you struggled to get in. When you got in, you couldn't get out.
Yeah, exactly. Very different way. And there's lots of good lessons that teachers, school teachers could take away from the way education is provided. It's definitely changing these days. It's much more interactive, much more tailored to an audience. So, yeah, I think things move in the right way.
All right, now we're going to jump into the M26 in 26. You ready?
Ooh, okay. Yep, fire away. Let's see how we go.
All right, so with those, taking into account different sports that you played, and I know you've done a little bit in the triathlon-y type space, cycling and bits and pieces. So what's been the hardest and toughest event or game that you've competed in, and why?
Oh, that's an easy one. It's the mountain bike race called the Epic, and it's held every year at Spice's Hidden Vale. It's there's various distances, but the only distance that I would do is the 100-kilometre one. Huge amount of elevation, typically 5 to 6 hours of torture, and when it's on, it's usually a damn hot day for some reason. But it's even worse. It's even harder if you've got a lot of rain overnight because of the clay that you're racing on. It just bogs up everything. But yeah, you've got nothing left in the tank after the Epic, that's for sure.
I believe that was on last weekend, is that right?
It was. I wasn't there, pleased to say. Yeah, you need to be very fit, and I'm not near fit enough to even tackle the half Epic, which is the 50K one.
How many times have you done that?
Probably half a dozen or more, I'd say, yeah. I look at, Facebook give you this feed every so often, 2 years back, 5 years back, 8 years back, and I can remember, and there's feeds coming through when I much leaner and much fitter 8 or 10 years ago.
Sucker for punishment.
Yeah.
Keep going back. Well done.
Yeah, I need to get back next year to see how we go.
All right. As part of Red's learning, I know you also do a bit around emotional intelligence. Exactly what is that, and how's it used to improve mental fitness in particular?
Yeah. Emotional intelligence best I guess defined by understanding your own emotions, being able to recognise that you're having a good day or a bad day, being able to manage those emotions in self, and also flipping that onto others as well. So you can recognise if a co-worker or colleague or a family member is having a bad hair day, and the appropriate response to do. So, there's some really good assessment tools out there to measure your emotional intelligence. I use one in particular called 6 Seconds, and it's got 8 different elements. Not to go into too much depth, but it does measure your empathy levels and consequential thinking and intrinsic motivation and, how good is your emotional literacy, all these things. And a really important one that underpins everything is purpose, which has got a really good correlation to, not just fitness, but, do you have a clarity around what you're trying to achieve? And that, for me, when I think about emotional intelligence and, understanding how to have a healthy and lived life, then, there's a pretty good connection between those two.
So a big piece of that is just the awareness component.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's amazing how few people are aware on how they actually come across to other people or how they respond to situations. There's a great model. There's not too much scientific models or highfalutin theories that I use in my leadership programs, but one around Johari's window, which talks about how well you know yourself and how well you share that with others, and blind spots in particular. And so.
Right, we'll shift sideways a little bit. Discipline, what's that mean for you?
I think it's, probably around consistency, and commitment towards, if you say you're going to do something, then, you just do that, and pulling out the last minute or just going, it's all too hard. Yeah, that doesn't sit too well with myself. And I know that's very strong with you as well. You've got an ethic around, commitment. People find it difficult, especially if you're trying to do it by yourself, fitness-wise. And that's why I say make it easy. Just, call up a mate or get a few people, and then you've got somebody that ties you into that requirement. So you don't want to let people down. And if you're that way inclined, you're more likely to be able to turn up at 5 o'clock for that River Loop bike ride.
So the accountability piece helps the discipline.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Have you had a mentor or a coach that's had a really big impact in your life, John?
They're interesting. I wouldn't say I've had a coach or anyone that's jumping out for me in particular, but I certainly have had probably my brother, Tony, has been a great role model for me in regards to not just being fit and healthy, because he's off the scale in that space, but also just the way he likes to fit as much into his life as well. And my older sister, those two are very similar. That's why they probably fight a bit. But Michelle is also an amazing individual who, resilience levels and ability to bounce back. She had a nasty bicycle accident a few years back, and now Michelle's in her 60s now and probably close to the mid-60s, had a near-death experience, literal near-death experience, and, just doesn't let it bother her. She's lost sight in one eye and she's got a huge amount of facial reconstruction happened, and in a coma for a long time, but, bounced back, and mentally she goes, I'm still walking. She fell off a mountain bike the other day. She's still out there doing it with half a vision, and busted up her knee. And she goes, I'll just get over it. She's amazing. So those two have been pretty impressive for myself as well.
How awesome is that, having those two around you through your entire life? So it's not just a single coach or a single mentor that's done something for you in a short space of time in your life, but they're always there, and they're still there setting that example. That's fantastic.
Yeah, very fortunate. I guess that's the benefit of having lots of brothers and sisters. They're all very different, all got their unique capabilities and skills.
Yeah. So you work obviously with a broad range of clients. Is there any one particular issue that you find that people struggle with?
I think there's a lot of, or there's a lack of awareness of how people see themselves, or how they interpret information. There's a thing, and it's brought up in a book by Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One book that probably everyone should read. It's been out forever and a day, and it's sold millions and millions of copies, but still very relevant. He talks about something called paradigms, and a paradigm is like a perspective or perception, but just on supercharge. So it's how you see the world as opposed to anybody else. And these paradigms can be hugely powerful in good ways as well as not so good ways in how you interpret information. I use the analogy or the story about, like we're loving cyclists that going up Coronation Drive, holding up traffic, and the big guy in the full drive is, come on, move to the side, because they're all spread apart. And you get so frustrated and upset about it. And it happened to me one day where I thought this four-wheel drive raced up and was, revved the engine as he went past us in a small group. And I think 5 o'clock in the morning, mate, no cars around. Anyhow, the lights changed, red up ahead. I thought, this will be good. I'll explain to him, how to keep a metre distance. And so I had it clear in my mind that this chap did this on purpose. Anyhow, got up to the window, about to just knock on the window, explain things, and it's a mate I hadn't seen for a long time. Oh, Woody, how this? He didn't see us at all. And I thought he did it on purpose, but he didn't. So we have these very strongly held beliefs that can sometimes get us in trouble.
Yeah. Mm. And you can help them shift and just bring some awareness around those beliefs.
Yeah, and that's that DISC profiling tool. There's lots of them. Personality Compass is another fantastic one. Myers-Briggs, anything that will give you a little bit of insight into yourself is fantastic. And if you're lucky enough to get a really good coach or mentor or a sounding board, informally or formally, you
even better.
Snaffle that up, that's for sure.
Right, perfect. You've what's been the most practical advice that you've ever received?
Most practical advice? Whoa, let me have a think. Probably for me, just because of my personality, and my nature, I like to try and dive in head first, full bore. And best advice from an old manager who said to me, John, maybe you should bite off a little bit less and chew more, rather than just trying to do everything and try and please everybody. Because coming up with great ideas and being highly energetic and getting excited about stuff and getting people on board, no problems. I can do that reasonably well. But seeing a lot of those great ideas through to fruition, dotting the I's and crossing the T's and slowing things down, it's just not my go. And he said, look, if you want to be successful, you're going to have to be able to put some of those great ideas and spend the effort to see them come through. And I thought to myself, what do you know, old man? And then he read out about 10 different great ideas I had over the last 3 months that never saw the light of day. I said, okay, maybe you've got a point. So, that's the best advice.
So great advice, and one that you're still learning a bit from.
Yes, I will always challenge that one, yeah.
Who did you look up to and admire as a child? Did you have anyone?
I guess, for me, we're a very close family, all of my brothers and sisters. And while they're quite a deal older than me, 10 or 12 years older than my eldest, Michelle, they all have different qualities that I admire, in each of them. All very, very different people. Well, Michelle, my oldest, and my next brother, Tony, I've got similarities. The rest of them are all, licorice, all sorts. And it's great because you take away so much, from each of them. I've profiled them, because that's what I do. And it's amazing how we all sit around the DISC profiling chart in all the different areas of it as well. So, yeah.
It's fascinating, isn't it, as a family, and yet so uniquely different.
Yeah. And that's what you find. I think from my research, I've done a lot of research into family dynamics and DISC profiles and all that type of stuff. And once you've got, 3 or more siblings, you'll find that people spread themselves around. The one's a fast-paced, task-focused, go-getter, action-orientated. The other's slower-paced, considered, likes to make sure things are in order and process. And that's just the way it is. Yeah. And it's amazing how we are then attracted typically to the opposite, in those behavioural styles as well. So
exactly. I've got 2 brothers and it's exactly the same. We're vastly different as well. So
yeah.
All right, talk us through your past and present involvement with surf lifesaving.
Oh, yes, yep. Well, been at Southport Surf Lifesaving Club for, I don't know, it's 12, maybe 15 years. I was involved in surf lifesaving at school days with Talabudra, but just fairly informally. But my daughter, we said, hey, you want to do nippers? She said, yeah, this is when she was about 4, 5, 6. And so she got into nippers for a few years there and then, left, as a lot of them do when, she's getting, 12. And then I'm left there because as a parent of a nipper, there's an expectation on you to be able to do water safety. To do water safety, they require you to do your bronze medallion. And so I had to do my bronze, and then they say, oh, I've got your bronze, would you like to do some patrols? And go, oh. And we were down the coast a fair bit. Mum and Dad live down at Main Beach these days, and we camped down there at the caravan park across the road from the surf club. So I thought, oh, yeah, might as well do patrols. And then, a dozen years later, been a patrol captain for about 10 years, just retired from patrol captain. We won the the patrol of the year, so
congratulations.
Put my tools down for that one. Still stay on as on patrol, and play a little role with the supporters club, which is the restaurant and the bars, to make sure the club makes money so they can provide the life-saving services across the board. So yeah.
Well done you.
Yeah.
Very active.
Yeah.
So what gives you energy, John? What drives you? What do you get excited about?
That's a difficult question. I'm a reasonably, a reasonably happy, easygoing, energized type of person. If I'm out there doing things, running, jumping, mountain biking these days, then that gives me fulfillment. On a professional sense, I love it when people get some, when they do a workshop with me and then they call me up, because I say to anyone, if you do workshops and you want a deeper dive into some of the psychometrics that I use, because I use DISC as well as emotional intelligence and various other tools that provide more awareness, I say, give me a call. I'm all ears. I've got a little bit of flexibility time-wise, so I can, provide that. And it's always enjoyable when people go, oh, that was amazing. I've never realised that this is the way I may come across to other people. So, yeah.
Right, you brought up consistency before. What are some daily success habits? Can you name 2 or 3 things that you do consistently every day?
Well, my ups, I'd say. So a good mate of mine, John Shabs, a great role model in himself, and maybe one day he might be on the podcast, because he is just a phenomenal, physical specimen of a chap. He said, one thing you do in the mornings, do your ups, sit-ups, push-ups and pull-ups, as many as you can, and that will keep you pretty much, will get your day started in the right way. So I've always been a keen advocate of that. It's not hard to do that. You don't need to go to a gym or anything like that. I'm no gym junkie, so that makes sense. The other one is, it's probably not a good habit, but I like to have a nice coffee in the morning, and one, it's an addiction. I get that, but it also gives me about 10 or 15 minutes just to think about and plan what the day's got ahead of it, And so that's one thing I like to do. Even though I'm a fairly ad-lib type of person, I like to know what I've got, and that time in the morning is a chance to sit down and just think about, okay, how are we going to fit everything in? And then go from there.
Yeah, good. I appreciate your honesty, John. Cup of coffee in the morning, I've got to say I don't mind that either. So,
yeah, I'm lucky. I've got a good supply of coffee, and I've got a pretty good coffee machine. So there you go.
And you do make a mean cup of coffee.
That's it.
Share a challenging event in your life and how and what got you through that.
Oh yeah, this is a painful one, to say the least, and it's still. It still gives us a little bit of nightmares, and I try and not think about it too much. But I went into a business venture with a chap, and we set up this business. He had this business, and I bought into it. And it was just a poor decision. The individual was probably not the nicest person, and it ended up costing me a fair bit of money because the thing that I felt bad about was because I trusted. My superpower, my super weakness is my trust. So trust is a very critical thing. It's the foundation for relationships and so forth. But sometimes you can be too trusting, and you become blind to certain things. And I couldn't see it. A few mates, business mates, were able to identify it, but I wasn't. I said, "Oh no, you got this person wrong." But yeah, so that without going into too much detail, that didn't work out too well. But yeah, we got through it. Yeah,
valuable lessons learned.
Yes.
So there's been a lot of change obviously happening in the workplace over the last decade or so. And in your role through Red Learning, have you noticed what would be the most significant change that you've seen?
Look, I mean, the obvious one is, the COVID situation, specifically with regards to people working more remotely or away from an office. And I'll be interested to see from a psychology perspective how that plays out on relationships, communication, alignment, because I come from the school, as you're well aware by now, of communicating, interacting, and sitting down, listening, networking, all of that type of stuff. And the way I got through university was through getting a group together to debate ideas and work out how things would be solved and resolved and all that type of stuff. So I think the opportunity to just sit around the water cooler and have a chat or overhear a conversation in another cubicle or whatever it is to understand what's going on it's not there, so you're in isolation. And if you need people, if you're an extroverted type of person, then you might be missing out on some of that as well. I'm probably happy I'm not in that space. I do work independently. When I'm not in front of a group of people, I'm sitting in my office designing or writing or tweaking programs that I've got. So I do a fair bit of independent work, but then I always get a huge release when I run a leadership program or a one-day workshop or whatever that might be. So, yeah.
That's a great observation, John, mate. Thank you. And nutrition, how important is that for you?
Oh, I'm going to fail on this one. I know. Look, I'm a little bit overweight to my fighting weight. Probably, I'm about 90 kilos. I should be around about 86 or 87. That would be, 85 is my epic mountain biking racing weight. But and I've got a great metabolism still. It's slowing down. That's what's happening. So I've never been one to follow any rules around food and diet and that type of stuff. I don't eat to excess. I have relatively small meals, maybe because that fills me up. But and as kids, we were always brought up on a lot of protein diet and that type of stuff. Mum would always make a big breakfast, and I think that's probably the key. And I still today have a big breakfast, like cereal and bananas and fruit. Only bacon and eggs on the weekends. That's a luxury, but the rest of it is pretty regimented. And if you have that, you're pretty good. And I'm trying to get better with my water intake. So listening to the 2 litres, rule that you've told me about.
Right, smartest person you've sat in a room with, John?
The smartest person. Let me have a think about this. It's so the interesting question. When I was thinking about this question, there's street smart people. One of my mates, my best mate Heath, he holds a very senior role within a global organisation. He is probably the most street smart, commercially savvy person you'd ever come across. Academically wise, he's not going to be anywhere in the room. So, but academically wise, I can talk to my my professor mate at QUT, who is literally a rocket scientist, and Clinton does, these amazing things with technology around that type of stuff, and especially the AI stuff. And then I've got other people who are artistically just brilliant. They're smarts around that. Chris and Damien, they are the most talented individuals when it comes to the visual arts. And so, and there's music. So, I don't have any one person. I've just got a mix of different influences.
That's a great answer. Like, that's really putting it into perspective, isn't it? Because there's certain elements in your life where you're actually going to need the academic, or you're going to need the street smart guy.
Yeah.
So you've got a plethora of people that you can turn on.
Yeah, and I think that's the way we should be looking at it as well, and especially in a work sense. You'll see people, if you pay attention enough, you'll see the people who have got certain talents for certain things. It may just be their networking skills, their business development opportunities, or they see things very differently. My eldest brother. So my two brothers, Tony and Michael's my eldest brother. He's probably one of the smartest people I know. But you would never pick that in a million years, because he's got dyslexia and schooling. He couldn't get through schooling, but I think he got IQ tests for some crazy 140 score or something like that. He can pull apart anything and put it back together. His mind works. And the best example I ever had was, I had this, like a Stratco shed, garden shed to put together. And I had a little go at it, but I had no idea. So I rang up one of those Airtasker people, and we looked at the reviews, and this person had thousands of sheds. Yeah, couldn't put anything together. I said, okay, 5-star. And got him in. He looked at it and he said, yeah, no problems, this will be easy. Anyhow, I went downstairs. It was in my unit down the coast, and in the garage to put some storage. About 2.5 hours, it was a stinking hot day. He was just melting down there, but nothing was in place. It was all over the place. He goes, mate, I have no idea how this thing goes together. I don't want you to pay me anything. Just don't give me a bad review. I'm going, I've got to give you something because of all the, at least you've tried, you've given it a red hot go, but you've come up empty. He goes, no, I refused, and he just apologised. I got my brother in the following week. I said, mate, do you want to have a look at this? And literally I sat there and watched him, and I don't know how he does it, but he said, no, that's easy, that goes to that. And he's had a map in his mind, a bit like, Rain Man, that type of stuff. And he had this thing up in about a half an hour, 45 minutes. And I was going, yeah, I should videotape that type of stuff.
What an incredible story.
Yeah, he's got weird talents. Very handy.
What's your definition of success, John?
I think it comes around family for me, having a very happy, well-adjusted daughter is probably one of the key things. I've got a beautiful daughter who's 23, and Chelsea is, successful in her career. She, it's interesting. She wasn't any rocket scientist academic, but she worked hard and had a great role model in her mother, who's an extremely hardworking, highly intelligent person, but down to earth. And so, if you can, marriage is not an easy thing. It's a challenge at the best times, but if you can work it and be flexible and adaptable and understand that there's going to be ups and downs, that type of stuff, then that kind of like, I see that as probably one of my biggest achievements, and getting through university somehow.
Name 3 attributes that you think are necessary to be considered physically and mentally fit.
Oh, 3 attributes, physically and mentally. I think persistence, being prepared to stick at stuff, that component. Resilience, I think, is a really important one for mental health. That is something that I do more. I'm doing more and more work in that space, that resilience space. And I'm not sure why that is the case, whether we're not being as tough on our kids as we if I did something wrong, I got a quick flick across the ears. Even as the youngest and the baby, I wasn't protected in any other way and that type of stuff. Probably persistence and resilience are the two keys for me. I'm not sure what the other one would be. Maybe determination. There you go.
All right. What's your greatest fear?
Greatest fear. That's right. This is a. Are
you fearless?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm fearless, but I'm a big believer in fate. So, what will be, will be. I mean, you still need to be, you can't just be loose and crazy and go off the cuff. That's not going to work. So everything for me in moderation. I know these days I'm slowing down. I'm getting older. I'm not as fast and strong as I used to be. And I would have been fearless, not too many years ago. But now I do everything within moderation, within my limits. And so, yeah, I don't really have to fear too much. I mean, I'm in a pretty good place, personally, professionally, financially, all that type of stuff. So, yeah.
You touched on earlier that when you were younger, soccer was your number one game. Out of all the physical activities you enjoy now, which is your favourite and why?
We talked about smart people. It's kind of like that as well. There's so many. I mean, I love snow skiing, and that's fantastic in the winter. I love surfing in the summer, like body surfing and riding my ski and my mal and, all my life-saving stuff. Mountain biking is always a real passion at the right time of year. So maybe it's seasonal, what my passion is. I'm not playing soccer or football these days, because this is this fearless thing. I've learned that, do I want to do a knee injury and not be able to run? Like I love to run and that type of stuff. And I said, no, probably not. So I'm happy to just be a spectator for that particular sport. But and tennis, I've always played tennis a lot. So, but if I had to survive on only one, probably something to do with the water. Yeah. Surfing, skiing, that type of stuff.
You've got a broad spectrum, mate. That's the main thing, a bit of diversity.
Yeah, exactly. It goes well with a redhead and fair skin surfing, doesn't it?
So if your wife or daughter, I'll let you pick one, had to describe you in 3 words.
Oh, they're similar. So I think they'd probably go with the same 3 words, which would be fun. Probably frivolous and frustrating. That's true. I can be a little bit frustrating.
I like that
because I don't follow the rules as well as I should at times. Yeah.
Loving that authenticity, John, and honesty. Well done. If you could do a training session with any athlete or sportsman in the world, who would that be and why?
There's a lady called Sally Fitzgibbon. She's a surfer. She's just a pocket rocket dynamo. She's got energy, just oozes energy, and she's very much into the fitness. And one, she'd be giving me good tips on how to surf, and I can surf okay, but, she would give us that. But she's also got a whole of life approach to fitness and eating right and, the diet. So, yeah, I think Sally, and she's just got a natural, buzz, You walk around her and I've seen her in surf comps and I watch the World Surf League a lot. And now that she's moving off, I think she's still top 10 or top 12. But, she's just got a passion. She just loves what she does. So
good choice. I remember she used to do a little bit of commentating for the sports channels.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, and you can hear it in the tone of her voice, how energised she is. She just makes it, super excited. So.
Yeah, no, she's amazing. Now, you're involved in the Master Builders Leadership Program, and so what I'd like to know is the early morning walk runs that you make mandatory for all the guys. Why is that?
Well, it's kind of mandatory. You know, we don't get 100% turn up every session, but I think it's a great way to get people to commit to something outside of the academic component, where they hold each other accountable and responsible to get up and be ready to go at 6 o'clock. I put it out there that I'm going to do it. Then a few of them say, "Oh yeah, they're keen to do it as well." And then I say, "Well, let's all do it." You know, as one group. And so then the pressure is on every people that wouldn't normally do it. And funnily enough, whoever turns up, and it's usually around about 80% of the class, they're all just say that's the best way to start the day. It gets the blood flowing, and they're long, heavy days with you got to be thinking a lot about things. There's lots of academic components to the program, and you're reading case studies, and you're working in groups, and you're doing presentations. So, and over 2 or 3 days in each of these sessions across the year, that can be draining. And so I said to him, it's one thing to be fit, mentally fit is really important as well. So, yeah.
Get them moving first up in the morning.
Yeah. Now they hold me to go, come on, let's go. So
I love it. I think it's a great concept.
Yeah.
So who's the fittest person you know, John, and why?
That would definitely be my brother Tony. Yeah, he's just he's a freak. He's 60. What's he? 62 now. What am I? 56? I'm not sure. 56, 57. Yeah. So he, just for example, like he's a very good cyclist. He's a national road, champion, or I think he might have missed out on the national championships by a millimetre in the champs a little while back. But he's won countless medals for his road riding. Yeah, and cycling at those long distances is physically demanding, but it's not limited to cycling. He loves his kayak and surfing. Like last weekend on Sunday, his day was getting up early, doing this Wazaconda, but a mountain goat challenge, which is a run up basically up Mount Cootha, I think it was, 5 or 10K run, and then finishing that. I think he placed in that with all the younger guys. Raced down to Moreton Bay and took off and paddled his kayak around Peel Island. So if anyone knows Moreton Bay and Peel Island, that's a long way to paddle your kayak all the way around there, and came back, and then still had enough time to fit in a game of volleyball with his 2 sons, and they're all their mates in the afternoon. So
wow,
yeah. But he's got a discipline around just moving, So yeah, he's by far and away the fittest person. Yeah,
he is a machine.
Yeah, he's crazy. So,
right now, I know you like to have a good laugh. What's something that's made you laugh so hard that your stomach hurt?
This is hard. I have no idea, really. This is it's a great. Maybe I just I'm always pretty happy about things and so forth. I do recall having some laughs when we're sitting around the campfire and somebody's telling a story and that type of stuff. And that's my go-to happy place, when you get the camper van out and sitting around and having maybe a rum or something like that. But I'm at a loss to
just laugh
pinpoint.
all the time. So it's not it's more quantity.
Yeah, rather than quality. Exactly.
All right, can you give us the 3 best books that you've ever read?
Oh, yes. Yep. Apart from academic books, which is, what you do when you're studying and all that type of stuff, I wasn't a huge reader, but a mate of mine was telling me about some of the stuff that he was working, and I think has been on the podcast before. So there is Rebel Ideas, which I think is fantastic, Matthew Sneed, just the way people think. And there's one particular chapter in that book about innovation. That's the chapter it's called. And it's a must read, just to understand how people come up with creative and new ideas. You think they're geniuses, that one in a million, but it's not. It's just their networking ability that gets them to be thinking outside the box. So that's a fantastic book. Black Box Thinking by Matthew as well is a really interesting book. It's basically, you know, the black box on an airplane, when the airplane crashes, they look at the recording to try and ascertain what went wrong. Well, they take that approach and try and apply it across different industries, and in particular the medical industry. When, you know, a surgery goes wrong or someone dies, the interesting thing, it's not well received in the medical industry or many other industries because, well, fundamentally, you've still got, you know, you've got people that can be held accountable, whereas in a flight recorder, no one usually to be held account. I mean, the pilot may be at error and it might be his fault, but, you know, he's not going to get sued or anything like that. So the medical profession are very protective in some regards on how much information they would prepare to share. But, yeah, it's a whole dive into that space around that component. Talking to strangers, Malcolm Gladwell there. There's lots of these ones, yeah, but that'd be my three top ones.
All right, what's the most practical tip or advice that you could give us, John?
Most practical, well, easy. Just be yourself. Yeah, be authentic all the way through. You know, you don't have to be a superstar or bloody Einstein or creative wizard or anything like that. If you know yourself well, you know, have a really good sense of understanding what makes you tick and what energizes you and what deflates your batteries and all that type of stuff, then you can come across to people and go, yeah, this is who I am, you know, and warts and all. You know, I don't try and be something that I'm not, and it makes my life easy. And no one's going to ever be as good at being you than you. So, yeah.
Great answer. I love it. All right, final question, John. Finish this sentence. I believe.
I believe. Probably things happen for a reason. There's always a lesson that we can take away from anything, whether it's a good thing or bad thing. Yeah, so what we sometimes do, probably more often than not, is experiences wash over us and we don't harness or tap into the huge benefit of those experiences to the same extent. And we have an ability to, you know, it's called intuition, to get a sense from our gut whether something was really good or didn't go so well. And sometimes we don't listen to that intuition well enough. So that's, I believe we should do that.
Right, fantastic. Thanks so much for coming into the studio today, John. I know you're a very busy man. I really appreciate your insights and your thoughts, and have an awesome week. Thank you.
Thanks, Magman. Very good. Appreciate the time.
Thank you for joining in on today's episode, and I hope this Strong Mind, Strong Body series empowers and inspires you. Make sure you've subscribed to our channel and leave a comment if you enjoyed today's podcast. You can also check out our website for more info about M26FIT at m26fit.au.